So we move on from where we were before. Pay, are you on? So here are a list of some of the topics. I'm going to practically read through the slides because I don't want to go off track. Because if I go off track, we'll be here for too long. So a list of some of the subjects included in the two following pictures, which were basically the two photo collage art pictures that I embedded into the timeline. Crystal of Time, which is here, and the Diamond Lens Doorway to Infinity, which is here, that I researched in relation to the Bosnian pyramids. So we've got the Pythagorean tetrad, octaves of harmonic resonance, relative and absolute nature of consciousness, awareness and perception. These I've already talked about a bit. Naga beings, the mystical elemental creatures of nature and their relation to the number 9. Fractality, the caduceus, electromagnetism, Hertzian waves and scalar waves. Golden ratio phi angles, Fibonacci sequences, pi, standing waves, pyramid energy, tachyon energy, the Kabbalion, Hermetica, orgone energy, vortices of energy transfer between dimensions, DNA, 2D and 3D solids, and their relation to the Hertzian vibrations and factor 9 grid, the time and the time pulse, crystals as solid rocks, as the morphogenetic crystalline field, as mind, as quasi-crystals, and as E8. So these 4 does that we talked about in the octaves of harmonic resonance are the 4 bass notes of the Pythagorean tetrad. And they are written into the base of this picture, the crystal of time, the macro of the micro. So crystal of time, I know it's difficult for you to see it at the back. We couldn't find a place to hang it so that you would see it in the back there. This offers an explanation of how every possible vibrational state throughout the multi-dimensional universe occurs. Is this really annoying you?
No, don't bother me.
I'm giving you some wind. But the musical scale is not just a linear thing, remember? It has a toroidal shape, whereby the sounds are emerging and dissolving out of one keynote, as in this picture here, constantly rotating fractals remaining alive on self-referred energy using the phi ratio angle. So energy can only self-refer using the phi ratio angle, otherwise it'll dissolve back into itself or dissipate into the space around it. It's the only way that it can continually rotate on its own axis. So an octave of harmonic resonance is actually a toroidal field, which is the basis of all the movements and appearing forms that exist in the multiverse. So by continuing to add and abstract figures of 8 together, thus, parts of this octave of harmonic resonance emerge and snake its way into an infinite knot. Like I said, this is the self-reference using phi ratio 1.618 angle. The twist of a spiral, coiled up energy holds all potential, where the 9th aspect is both the whole and the 0, which is demonstrated in this spiral picture here, as well as this little diagram of a toroidal field that I've scribbled out there. So the crystal of time is a time pulse. So we've got this movement of perception out of awareness that I described to you before, when something starts looking at something. So now there's a duality where it transitions from being in a state of scalar to transverse wave, which is the dynamic action that hits the crystalline structure, causing it to vibrate and hence exist. And we've seen that happens in the tunnel. When the energy moves through the tunnels, it will hit the crystals that are in the walls, embedded into the walls of the tunnel, and the tunnels will carry this energy through underneath the pyramid of the sun, causing this energetic beam of 28 kilohertz to come out at the top. Sam describes that in the tunnels, as you saw in the film. So awareness, which is like a scalar, we can liken it to like a scalar or longitudinal wave in another dimensional respect, is able to pulse itself everywhere simultaneously without ever straying from its original position, yet it seems to. So the whole of the crystal of time constituting its base and electromagnetic lines caused by its inherent crystalline structure. Here, you'll see the 8 crystals which are planted down the center of it. Its axis are 8 crystals in the center, which makes it 9, is an archetypal pulsation of time, an emanation of pure awareness, which is emerging from this golden circle in the center, 2 ways, as a physical entity which operates on its own power supply. So each pulse contains a massive division of its original harmonic, again and again, whereby it replicates itself into an entire state of being. A time pulse is orchestrated, for example, it emerges according to its natural harmonic by the state of our perception. So it depends on how we see things as to how the frequency emerges, is what I really mean here. Or point of view, the shape of reality that we envisage individually. And because perception is not separate from awareness, it can also dissolve into no time as awareness. Everything depends on how we perceive it. But I'm just scratching the surface of the meaning of what I've embedded into this picture here. But when I the thing was, I had only this picture. So I created this picture, the crystal of time, and now I wanted to embed this picture, the wind's helping me, look. Embed this picture into and as the timeline of the movie. But try as I might, when I attempted to lay out the movie in accordance with the shapes and symbols embedded within this picture, I just couldn't do it. It just didn't happen. Because another photo collage art picture needed to emerge first, and then was born the diamond lens doorway to infinity. And this, we find here, is the center of the crystal of time magnified, enlarged. Here is just a golden circle. Here, there are more than 7,000 circles inside the diamond lens doorway to infinity, and it was my lockdown project. Cutting circles. Here we see the crystals in the crystal of time and how they relate to the diamond lens doorway to infinity. So here we see there are 4 crystals at the top. Sorry. Then we have the central golden circle and 4 crystals at the bottom. So you see, I've drawn them here above and here below. So what is actually happening here in the center? The central space has 12 crystals, dodecahedron shape of DNA set around it that can be expanded into a sliding scale and has a wormhole through its center, where 3 principal layers of essential blueprint and manifest reality govern how they appear. Here we have 12 spirals which come out, the central part of 13th, and this is going to, I'm going to elucidate on that in a minute. While I was developing another project based on the meaning of the 5 elements and their complementary 5 mental aspects, I could see how this related to the pattern I was developing. And 5 times 12 equals 60, so now we have a pattern of time emerging within the diamond lens doorway to infinity. I started looking at emanating the 5 elements in golden ratio patterns and interrelating them with the 5 mental aspects. So here we've got the 5 elements, space, wind, fire, water, earth, and the 5 aspects of mental formation, form, feeling, perception, conditioning, resulting in consciousness. We have 9 layers of harmonic resonance. And remember, I've already talked about the importance of 9. So how did I make this picture? It looks really, really complicated, but actually it's really, really simple. I just made 9 layers of these vibrations in 5 ratio increments, plus 4 photos on top of the smaller layers, so equals 13. But if you just place this symbol 12 times, like round the numbers on the clock, this is the result. The diamond lens doorway to infinity. So that's the fundamental archetypal shape that's based inside this this picture.
Point that out once again. Like I see that that's the, but where's the second one?
Okay, it's not here. Well, you've got one here, 2, actually I can show you here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I just place this pattern, 1, 2, 2, 4, and I just keep drawing all those layers, and the result is this. They look like they're all jumbled on top of each other, but they're just this pattern. Mm-hmm.
So you can spiral them as well?
Yeah.
I want to give you a project for the
If
next
it's
one.
if in 3 dimension, you can spiral it. You've got to remember that this picture in actual form is based on plyboard. It's 6 feet by 6 feet wide. It's big.
Like a big canvas.
And each of these circles is cut out from photos, the colors of photos. I mean, it was my lockdown project. Each of these are cardboard cutouts and cloth folded over them. So when you see the photo collage art, they're very, very tactile. They're not just, this is not a computer graphic. This is like a picture. So remember the circle of immortality. This is probably what influenced me. You know, the basis of this was in my mind. So the diameter of the circle times pi is the length of its circumference, and I chose the sizes of the diameters of the circles in increments of golden ratio. So between here and here is 1.618, 1.618, 1.618, and likewise with the smaller circles. So the smallest circle, which is actually a photo in the picture, which sits on the smallest circle, which is yellow, starts at 0.5 centimeters and is exactly the size that you would get out of a hole puncher. So the whole first layer I could cheat using the hole puncher, tick, 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 tick. But from the second layer I had to cut. And then the next is 0.85, the following 1.4 centimeters, because that's golden ratio increments. So now let's look at the charge. So the charge wave starts as a transverse wave, means it's a Hertzian wave, it's inside the electromagnetic spectrum, on the lip of the cone, and ends as a longitudinal wave at its tip, here in the center. This is the translation of vorticity, a phase shift into the next dimension. So this is what's happening here, is this transfer from electromagnetic energy into this center part, which we see here as emerging as a longitudinal wave. So how does this charge work? As these waves of charge proceed down the golden ratio pent 5 vortex, where phase conjugation occurs, a very precise translation of vorticity occurs. The longitudinal wave is literally the path out. Non-destructive charge compression through the speed of light. This is very important because not only relates to how electromagnetism transforms into a scalar wave, but how we attain enlightenment. Because we got to get out of this field of perception per se and back to that level of awareness where we ourselves are a scalar wave. So the Planck dimension, length and time, is specifically the threshold at which this translation of vorticity, which means the doorway through the speed of light into the longitudinal grid, is possible, i.e. where it enters a more subtle dimensional state. And all this information is written into Crystal of Time with the help of Diamond Lens Doorway to Infinity. So this is the process of dissolving our molecular cellular structure from a state of physicality through using our mental capacity to return to our light source. Okay, you know, I could use mental, emotional, spiritual, blah, 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 but I have to limit it to. So now my aim was to embed the shapes and meanings of the Crystal of Time and the Diamond Lens Doorway to Infinity into the timeline of the movie, following the sequence of shapes in Crystal of Time, which I now did in 3 sections. So let's look a little deeper as to how I did this. I used the key numbers in both the pictures. So I started by looking at key numbers in the pictures Crystal of Time and the Diamond Lens Doorway to Infinity. So we have 1 octave of harmonic resonance in the Crystal of Time, of whole tones, which is 8, plus a golden central circular space, equals 9, plus relating to the numbers of vibrations of each principal 12 circles placed where the numbers go on a clock, in golden ratio proportion, in Diamond Lens Doorway to Infinity. 9, we have 9 vibrations going 12 times, as I described to you. We have 5 principal layers of magnetism, which are the golden lines in the crystal of time, here. And 5 of the dark blue, which you can see take the form of the caduceus, traditional form of the caduceus. I'm sorry you can't see this. Can you see? This is the caduceus. And the golden lines are the electromagnetism. So we have the union of electricity and magnetism here. 5 elements and 5 mental attributes of the diamond lens doorway to infinity, as I showed you. The 5 with the 2 overlapping in the center, creating 9, so 5 layers of that. 5 elements and 5 mental attributes of 5. The number of main circles in the diamond lens doorway to infinity, forming 1 octave of harmonic resonance in semitones, is 12, plus 1 whole circle that encompasses them, 13, tuning to 432 hertz, and moving up and down in multiples of 9, a 14-tone matrix of synchronicity appears, 14. Adam Kadmon, primordial man, layout of the whole, 10. I explained that to you before. So these are just the key numbers. These are numbers that I'm looking to embed into the movie.